Hello there, everybody. This is Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, and today I'm going to be doing the mid-year Freakout tag. I forgot to look up who invented this tag, but somebody a long time ago invented this. Thank you so much, whoever you are, because it's pretty much a booktube staple. Like, everybody does it. And that's because, like Victoria said, she just posted hers today. It just works so well for the purpose that it was intended for. So, yes. Let's jump into the questions. So, first question is best book that you've read so far in 2023. And I still think The Case Against the Sexual Revolution by Louise Perry is the best book that I've read so far this year. It is standing at number one. I love it so much, and I want everybody to read it, especially, I don't know, especially everybody, especially young women, I think, because I feel like young women have the power to kind of change the culture in a way that would be better for them, better for themselves. But young women are so hesitant to speak up for their needs. They tend to be on the agreeable scale. This is not every young woman, but women tend to be less assertive about their needs. And I feel like that's changing. Women know now that assertiveness is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. But I feel like this book would help you with your assertiveness if you have a problem with that. So this would be great for young women. I feel like Louise Perry is basically saying, listen to your mother on so many things. And I was amazed that somebody who considers herself a liberal, was a lifelong liberal, is an atheist, would come out with so many conclusions that I actually agree with. Tom from LA Books and Catholic Wisdom now, both channels, he actually has reviewed this quite negatively because it doesn't come to the same conclusions, not because it doesn't come to all the same conclusions, but because it doesn't connect faith and the importance of God and the Holy Spirit, and like it doesn't talk about spiritual things because she's an atheist. But I'm pretty amazed that she came to these conclusions just by looking at the research, even if I think that she is obviously missing some conclusions that are also very important. But maybe it spoke to me more because I am a woman. I'm not sure. But regardless, I was blown away by this, and I still think it's the best thing that I've read this year. I did, however, also finish A History of Korea by Hwang, which also was such a good book. I've been reading this one for like literally a year and a half. I think Jenny gave it to me for Christmas in like 2022. And I annotated, and I didn't annotate necessarily the first couple chapters as much. I think the first 5 chapters or so I didn't really annotate. Because I wasn't really sure that I was going to do that when I first started it. But around chapter 6, I started annotating, and I annotated the whole thing, which is why it took me so long. I loved this. I feel like I learned so much about Korean history, and if I want to refresh myself on something in Korean history, I can go back and see what this book said about it. I can look up names in it, and I think Jenny mentioned, because she read it as well, at least some of it, and she said what she finds it really useful for is going back and looking at the timelines at the beginning of every chapter. There are timelines, and I agree. I think the timelines are really helpful. So it doesn't cover everything, and I definitely think that I'm going to need to read more books about Korean history to really understand everything, because he does skip around things a bit. He does technically go by year, but it's almost like a thematic arrangement of the material. He starts with a certain big event within a time span that kind of represents or symbolizes the point that he's trying to make about this period. So yeah, it's kind of topical, but fabulous as well. Yeah, and obviously it's by a Korean author, so that's exciting. Professor of History and East Asian Languages and Cultures at the University of Southern California, USA. But his name alone tells me he's Korean. So maybe he's Korean American. I don't know. Regardless, next, the best sequel that I've read so far in 2023. I don't really read series anymore. I want to get back into fantasy, but nothing has grabbed me the way that Guy Gabriel Kay, A Bright and Go. I didn't write that down. How did I miss that? That was so good. A Bright and Go by Guy Gabriel Kay was my favorite fantasy, I think, that I've read in a long time. However, I'll talk about some other fantasies in this video. I haven't read this. That is like that's a number of books into a series. A Brightness Long Ago is. I don't think that's the first book in a series. Regardless, it's not really classified as a sequel. It's probably the closest thing to a sequel that I've read, though. Also, I did read Second Peter with my community group. Not also really a sequel exactly, but it is the second letter in a series of letters. And I also read the Apothcary Diaries volume. I actually don't know if I read volume 2 this year or if that was last year, but I'm loving all of the sequels to that one. I'm in like 6 right now, I think. So yeah, those are kind of as close as I have to a sequel. I guess I've also been enjoying the Talk to Me in Korean books, which, I don't know, number 2 in a series, number 3 in a series. I don't know. I don't really read series very often though. So new release that I want to read but haven't. I'm going to keep the same answer here as I said in my quarter year crisis book tag because I haven't read it yet. And that is Victorious in Defeat, The Life and Times of Chiang Kai-shek. So I'm excited to get to this. Maybe after I finish Bleak House, I can get to it. I'm really hoping that I can. I'm really interested in biographies because they're kind of like the beefier cousin to memoirs, and I love memoirs, but biographies are usually, I guess, written by historians, and they're a little bit more informed probably, whereas memoirs tend to be, you know, written by a person in conjunction with another writer who is like helping them get their story out, which is fine. That's totally fine with me because I probably wouldn't read it if it wasn't written by a professional writer. But I do want to like venture further into biographies because the biography of Washington was one of my favorite books in like 2021 or something. Regardless, let's move on. Number 4, the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So I was really anticipating Beyond the Story by BTS, and I'm in the middle of it now. I'm like, I think 50-something% in, and it's living up to the hype. The pictures are interesting. There's, what do you call those? There's like these. These where you can scan them and they'll bring you to a place on the internet that it's talking about. Yeah, this is really fascinating, and I'm enjoying it so far. So there's that one. And then there's also a book called Traffic by Ben Smith. Let me grab it. Hang on. So that's a book about how the authors of like the HuffPost and Traffic by Ben. Let me see if I can just find it. Okay. I'll just read you a little bit of the description because I get kind of lost in the details, but the subject matter I know is interesting to me. It's the origin story of the age of disinformation, the candid inside tale of 2 online media rivals, Jonah Peretti of HuffPost and BuzzFeed, and Nick Denton of Gawker Media, whose delirious pursuit of attention at scale helped release the dark forces that would overtake the internet and American society. I'm really interested in this. Yeah. It continues to be the case that my favorite books of the year are nonfiction books. So I really want to keep focusing and working on nonfiction. Yeah, as I want to make that my genre of choice that I go to, but I feel like fiction is just generally easier for me because I'm usually reading to relax these days. And I have a little bit of time sometimes in the morning to read things that are challenging, and that's why it took me a year and a half to get through the history of Korea, is because usually the time that I have for reading challenging things is the morning, and that's usually overtaken by Bible study and other projects that I'm working on personally, like videos. I have to work on videos in the morning if I'm going to work on them. Because the rest of the day I'm working or doing social things. So I just don't have as much time as I would like for challenging reading, things that make me like better as a person. Fiction generally is easier to relax to, and so that's why I read more fiction, is because I'm usually reading fiction before bed to relax. So yeah, I would like to make it a goal to read more things that are challenging, but there's just certain busy times in life where that's not going to happen, and this happens to be one of those times. So regardless, and another goal actually of mine is to start paying attention to new releases. I need to write, hang on 1 second. Anyways, so yeah, I think I really want to start paying better attention to new releases, especially because there's a lot of nonfiction new releases that interest me. For a long time, I didn't think I was interested in new releases because I don't really like modern fiction. However, historical fiction might be an exception to that. I need to explore it more, and I also really need to explore more modern nonfiction because modern nonfiction actually interests me. So yeah, let's keep moving on. The fifth question is the biggest disappointment, and I didn't really have a lot of things that I was like super disappointed by. I generally just, I don't know. I guess I don't really read things that I don't think I'm gonna like, and I usually end up liking them. Maybe that says that I'm not being risky enough. Maybe I'm not trying new things enough. But regardless, I was disappointed by Pilgrim's Progress. I was really hoping that it would be like a 5-star blow me out of the water type read, and it really ended up being, as Kristen and I talked about, it's like 4-star content but 3-star delivery. We both really struggled with the delivery, and I think a lot of people did as well. I think, and that may be because it's an ancient classic. I don't know, but I just found it really difficult. So biggest surprises, I have to throw in Bleak House here, even though I haven't finished it yet. But this is my favorite Dickens that I've ever read. I'm 200 pages in, and it's my favorite. I'm just gonna come out and say it. I have a lot more pages to read. It's like 1,000-page book almost. So if I don't end up liking the next, 800 pages, maybe I'll change my mind. But I feel like Kate Howe nailed this on why I like it and why she doesn't like it. And this is, I think, a really interesting divide in BookTube, because I know other readers as well who feel this way, where Bleak House feels kind of literary. It feels like it's extremely well constructed. Like I can totally trust Charles Dickens to tell me an amazing story. It's all going to come together. I just trust him, and I know that that's true. And the writing is like every word there for a reason, and it's funny, and the characters are like, there's certain characters who just, I'm like riveted to them. And yeah, I just implicitly trust Charles Dickens as I'm reading him, and maybe it's because I'm reading it physically too. I think that helps. I think a lot of times when I'm reading Charles Dickens physically, I end up giving up and going to audiobook, but I can't do that with this one. I know I'm not going to enjoy it, and I know that I am enjoying it physically. It's just going to take a lot of work and focus to keep focusing on it through 1,000 pages. So, regardless, this is a huge surprise to me. I knew it was going to be hard work. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it this much. I feel like it's been a long time since I've been like, I just adore Britlit. Nothing against Britlit. I think it's great. I don't know. For some reason, other countries interest me more. I'm very much a country reader. This is something that you probably know about me. You probably know I'm interested in Russia and Korea right now. But I did love The Vicar of Wakefield as well, which was not exactly a shock, but it did come out of the blue for me because I had never heard of it before Feb Regency. So The Vicar of Wakefield, Bleak House, out of the blue, loving them. Shocked that I'm loving them, especially the Bleak House, because there's so many Dickens that I didn't love. So yeah, this is fantastic so far. Wise Blood as well. Also a shock because I had read that one before and didn't like it. It's not an Enneagram 9 book. However, on reread, I was blown away by it and absolutely loved it. So yeah, sometimes on reread, I'm gonna like things better than I did the first time around. Also true with Game of Thrones, which is the other book I wanted to talk about as a huge surprise. I was shocked by how much I loved Game of Thrones because I think, this is my theory now, looking back, the TV show ruined Game of Thrones for me, and also the fact that I wasn't a huge audiobook listener when I was a very young adult. I listened to audiobooks, like I listened to Jane Eyre, that's how I discovered Jane Eyre, was through audiobooks because I would be driving to my library job. But I was trying to read Game of Thrones physically, and I liked it, but it was taking me so long, and fantasy isn't a genre where I'm just like, yeah, I want to devote a lot of hours to reading this. Like, I just usually don't want to be in the same book for several months unless it's worth my time. That sounds totally snobby, but that's just how I am. So generally fantasy books, I don't feel like it's worth spending like 20 hours with a book or more. And sometimes it completely proves me wrong. Like with Patrick Rothfuss, I just enjoyed every word so much of the Patrick Rothfuss series that I'm happy to be spending a million hours reading that. And I think Game of Thrones on audiobook is like that. For me, it's still not a book that I'm going to sit down with and read physically like I did with the Patrick Rothfuss books. But listening to it was a revelation. Game of Thrones is so well constructed and surprising and gritty and morally gray, and I was blown away. I can't believe I didn't like it in the past because now I love it. So that's where we are there. Favorite new author? Yeah, this is... there's a lot of authors that I could put here, but wouldn't quite work because I've only read one of their books. For example, Mary Stewart. I could say Mary Stewart here because Heirs Above Ground I loved it. It was so fun. Romantic suspense? Is that what it's called? Romantic crime? I don't know. It was like, it felt more of like a mystery to me, but the setting in Austria with a traveling circus was just so colorful for me. I just loved living in that book, and it was very pacey, and I read it without an audiobook, which is really rare for me. Yeah, so I absolutely loved Heirs Above Ground by Mary Stewart. However, I've only read the one book by her, so I hesitate to say she's a new author. But I'm going to read more from her at some point. Hopefully somebody else will choose it as their book club book, because apparently that's the only way that I get to things that are just fun. Jenny mentioned this in a video recently. Some people don't know how to have fun, and I feel like sometimes I'm like that. Unless it's K-pop. I know how to have fun with K-pop, but books, I just tend to be like more serious about what I'm reading. I think because it takes more work. So if I'm going to do something that requires more work and attention and focus, it's better be worth my time. So yeah, just a difference between me and some parts of booktube, which I admire. I admire people who literally will just sit down and read a book because they love it and it's fun, and that's the only reason why they're doing it. That is so cool. I admire you. I have trouble doing anything just because it's fun. I usually am like, it has to be useful. Why do I think that? I don't know. It's a hang up of mine. Regardless, okay, let's keep moving on. This is such a rambly video. But regardless, it's enjoyable. I haven't done this. I've been only doing vlogging lately, which is fun because I can ramble in my vlogs as well. But it's fun to do a different video once in a while. Okay, newest... Oh, and I had to mention as well Naoki Urasawa, who is the author of the Monster manga series. Wow, guys. Wow. Thank you so much to Kellyanne Mitchell for turning me onto this, because, yeah, she mentioned this as one of her favorites of the year in the mid-year freakout tag. And yeah, I agree. The Monster manga series is fantastic. I'm still only in volume 3 because I can't even read a manga fast. But yeah, it's so good. It's like the interesting ways it deals with morality, and I just feel like it's a revelation. Reading it is a revelation. That's the kind of things that I like to read. I think I like things with moral revelations that are really well constructed. That's a buzzword for me, a moral revelation. So yeah, it's interesting how it deals with morality. Yeah, so I'm not really describing these books super well, like as far as what's happening in the books, but I feel like that's okay because a lot of these I've already mentioned in other videos. You've heard me talk about them. Some of them are popular enough that you've heard other people talk about them. So I'm just gonna let that go. Newest fictional crush. So here's another thing. Again, because I don't really read for fun, I don't often have fictional crushes. Last year, my fictional crush was Prince Mishkin in The Idiot. This year, I have not read a Dostoevsky, so that's going to be another goal for the second half of this year. I haven't read a full Dostoevsky novel yet this year because I was too anxious around the time of the Demons readathon. I just had too much going on. And I'm still really frustrated with myself that I didn't finish it because I was enjoying it. regardless, I don't know if that would be a fictional crush kind of book though. Regardless, fictional crush, I'm just gonna go ahead with a K. Well, I could go with like a K-drama. Okay, yeah, there are lots of characters. There are lots of characters that I have crushes on in K-drama, but I didn't prepare one. There's a doctor in Chocolate that I mentioned in a couple months back in a video. Love that doctor. Okay, now I have to know. But the thing that I actually wrote down for this question was from K-pop, because K-pop members have fictional personas. It's acting, especially when they're on stage. And of course, I usually fall for the rappers because they're the coolest. I don't know. I really like swagger. I like attitude. I like when you can grab my attention. I like round face, apparently, and big cheeks. Yeah, that's my thing. So Changbin of Stray Kids, he's their main rapper and also writes like so many of their songs, like their big hit songs. He is one of the writers of the song, and sometimes the only writer, but a lot of times he's writing with other members of the group. Like Stray Kids writes their own music, guys, which is pretty rare in pop music for a group to really take such a heavy hand in their own writing. But it shows, like, it's really unique. Like his rap flows are unique, and I just love me some Changbin, so recommended. Stray Kids, I feel like, could actually appeal to literally anybody who likes a rapper, who likes rap, because their sound is super rap heavy and not poppy to me. I have to run them by Kevin and see what he thinks. But some songs that I played for him, he said, no, that's still pop. But to me, it definitely sounds more like a rap. It sounds more rappy. They have a very different sound than a lot of K-pop groups Stray Kids does. So, yeah, I'm obsessed with Changbin lately. Okay, Chocolate is the drama that I'm thinking of, where I particularly fell in love with somebody. Okay, his name was Lee Jun in the drama, Lee Jun, and the actor's name is Jang Sung-jo. Sung-jo. I don't know. I'm going by the romanization. If I actually saw the Korean, I would be able to tell you what their actual names are. But yeah, he was fantastic in Chocolate. And okay, get this. He's got round face and big cheeks. Okay, yeah, of course he does. Of course he does. That's my thing. I don't know. Something about it makes them look stronger. I think Kevin is my type. I mean, let's be real. Kevin's my type, and he's he's not a big, strong dude, but he's got these football shoulders, and he's got strong arms. Like, you can see Kevin's muscles, and he's got like freckles all over, and Kevin, of course, is my type. Like, he's my favorite type. So sometimes I run across Koreans that are the same type, and I like them too. Okay, move on. We're spiraling. Okay, so newest favorite character, Pee-Pee in Bleak House is my newest favorite character. I adore Pee-Pee. Every time he comes up in the book, my heart just swells. It's just, he's so adorable. He's just this little baby that Esther is taking good care of. Esther is like the main character in Bleak House. And she's taking care of this little baby because nobody else is doing it. His mom does not care about him. She's too busy with her various charity type things that she's doing. But yeah, whenever Pee-Pee comes up, I think, again, it's the way Dickens writes. It's not necessarily his characters. It's the way he writes about them that I love. Yeah. So that's why I'm enjoying Bleak House. It's the way he's writing it. Okay. Let's see here. What's next? Newest favorite character. Oh, books. No, that was it for that one. Books that made you cry. I Want to Eat Your Pancreas by Yoru Sumino, which I read for an 80s vlog that I can't believe I haven't posted yet. Hopefully I'll post it this week. I'm planning on posting it this week or next week. Anyways, I Want to Eat Your Pancreas was a book that Mingi of ATEEZ read, and I felt like I got such a better picture of Mingi by reading this, and it was so sad. Like, it was described as a bittersweet romance, but it wasn't really a romance. It was two young people, I guess, falling in love, but, you know, one of them is dying of a terminal disease that she knows approximately when it will probably kill her. So it doesn't really turn into a romance because they're both aware of that fact. But it was really, like, it was really good manga. It was like a standalone manga, which I love. I never see standalone mangas, but that's a standalone manga that made me cry for sure. It was really good. Another series that made me cry. Oh, I did read The House with the Golden Door this year by Elodie Harper. That I should have put that for sequel. That's a historical fiction series set in Pompeii, and we're following a group of prostitutes who are trying to kind of drag themselves out of that job, basically, because it's really dangerous and terrible and traumatic. And I just really appreciated how Elodie Harper did not try to like defend prostitution as a way of life, because it's extremely traumatic. Like, everybody who comes out of prostitution is traumatized. Not everybody. A lot of women though they come out of that much the worse off. So I loved that she portrays that in this series. But it's also the characters, the sex workers in this book really are, she spends so much time with them and with their characters and really fleshes them out as interesting people and people that you love. And she really delves into how and why they became sex workers and the things that happen as a result of them, because they're not entering it out of choice. I don't think any of them entered it out of choice. They were forced to enter it in this case. So I loved this series. I was amazed by it, and it made me cry a lot. Yeah, there are definitely times, because there's some really heartrending things that happen when you're not in control of your destiny and you're forced into sex work. Yeah, so that's what happened. I would recommend that series by Elodie Harper. Again, that's the only historical fiction I think I've read this year, but I loved it, and that's kind of what makes me want... Oh, I did read some of Cold Mountain, but I haven't finished it yet because K-Tropathon. But I think this is... I prefer this to Cold Mountain, simply because Cold Mountain is about the Civil War, and I'm not as interested in the Civil War. I think American history and politics, I'm not that interested in. But anyways, okay, a book that made me happy would be Moreland Cottage by Elizabeth Gaskell, because it was just so good to be enjoying her writing again. Elizabeth Gaskell is just the best. Like, I need to read everything else that she has written, because I always love it. I always love it. Completely love it. No reservations. So I also loved other things that I read because of readathons, mainly because it was a great experience, but also because the books are wonderful. So The Silver Chair, I read that with my short classics for charity book club this year. I think it was our first book club pick, and that was so fun because a bunch of my friends just came to hang out because it was my birthday, and they read the book so they could come and discuss it with me. So thank you so much for everybody who came to that. That's a really special memory for me. And I also had a read along of, oh no, this was last year. Okay, I was going to mention The Man Born to Be King by Dorothy L. Sayers, because that was such a wonderful read along as well, but we read that last year. What did we read for Advent? I remember now. Yeah, okay. What's next? Oh, and the Apothcary Diaries manga series is like my happy place. It just always it entertains me so much. That's actually something that I do just read like strictly for entertainment is the Apothcary Diaries manga series. So I guess I do like reading for entertainment. Again, there's a lot of my reading is done for relaxation. It's just, that's not what I would prefer. I would prefer my reading to be like serious and worthwhile, but sometimes like manga especially, I think I literally am enjoying it because I'm expecting a good time. But then sometimes manga series like Monster and Fruits Baskets and other series, they end up being profound. Like surprisingly profound, you know. I guess that was a prejudice I probably had about comics and manga and stuff like that previously, was that I really had trouble because I hadn't read very many of them, and the ones that I had read weren't the right ones for me. I just had an assumption that they must just not be the right thing for me because I like classics. But manga can be just as profound, and I've found that out through reading them, finally. I'm excited to be really getting into manga because it's something that I've been interested in for a long time, but I just hadn't found the right ones. And now I'm finding the right ones. So, yay. Next, most beautiful book you bought so far this year or received. So, I received several books. I don't remember which ones were all Christmas presents and which ones were birthday presents, but that tends to be when I receive books from people, is for Christmas and birthday. So I'm just going to hold up all the ones that I remember getting recently-ish, in the last 6 months, 7 months. So The Presence of Grace and Other Book Reviews by Flannery O'Connor. Victoria sent me this. She also sent me a book of essays by Dorothy L. Sayers that I couldn't find, and I can't stand for long today, so I couldn't find it, but they're both beautiful and I love them. I love them all equally. Tiffany sent me Fathers and Sons by Ivan Turgenev. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Turgenev, I think it is. I have to think about, it's been so long since I studied Russian. I've been so into Korean, but I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm excited to be reading this in September with my book club. I hope you'll join us for that. For Tiffany and I, we're going to be reading it together, and I can't wait to get back into Russian classics. It's been too long. I also, for my parents, got the Glug Archipelago Volume 2, and it's beautiful. I'm obsessed with these covers. These editions are amazing. I really want to read them. Now that I own them, and I can just read them at my own pace, maybe that'll be, I don't know, the next thing I dive into. We'll see. I also got Talk to Me in Korean Level 4 workbook from Jenny at some point for Christmas or birthday, and I'm super excited about this, and I love it. The illustrations are just the funniest thing. Like, it's so, like, yeah, Indiana Jones or something. I don't know. Yeah. These are such good books, and I'm making my way through level 3, slowly but surely. I've been spending a lot more time on input and learning words and vocabulary directly from input. So watching a K-drama in Korean, taking pictures of the words, looking them up in an online dictionary, and then trying to memorize those words on my own. I'm spending a lot of time on that lately, and also learning to interpret the sentences and break them down, because when I entered Pangtan Academy, I realized that I wasn't doing enough of that input, because I understood a lot of the grammar and vocabulary on the entrance test, but I didn't understand what the sentences meant because I was learning words in isolation too much. But now I'm trying to learn words in context of a sentence and figure out what it means. Interpreting is hard. This is also a really gorgeous book that Jenny sent me, If I Had Your Face by Frances Cha. Wow, this cover. I'm actually supposed to be reading that starting today with Tiffany. So yay, buddy read with Tiffany time. I'll set that over there so I remember to start it. And Rainy sent me Korean Stories for Language Learners. Thank you so much, Rainy. I honestly, probably my favorite cover of the whole bunch. I love the tiger. Tigers are big in Korean mythology because they were scary back then, and so Koreans were trying to like laugh at their fears. So yeah, I'm obsessed with this book. It's so good. It has cultural notes, it has writing activities, it has it has like the story in Korean and then in English below it. Sometimes it'll have illustrations, and it has vocabulary, pre-reading questions, comprehension questions. If you are learning a language, get a book like this. Honestly, I think this will help a lot with my input actually reading, because I haven't done it in several months where I was really reading a lot because I was working on studying in Pangtan Academy, but I want to get back to it. I was thinking that classes might come up in Pangtan Academy with some of these books, but that hasn't happened, and now Pangtan Academy is on pause. So I guess I'll just read them myself, and I can always take a class if they put it up another time. Okay, the last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So these are mostly just things that I really want to finish, not necessarily that I need to read. I don't need to finish anything that I don't want to. However, things that I want to finish would be Demons, as I mentioned, Paul by N.T. Wright, and Moby Dick, and Nothing to Envy by Barbara Demick, and Easy Korean Reading for Beginners, which is another Talk to Me in Korean book that I feel like I understand the grammar mostly in it. It's just the vocabulary and learning the vocabulary that is taking me some time. And I'm trying to read and reread and listen to and re-listen to all of it multiple times so that it can really stick in my head. So that's kind of it for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know down below if you want to answer any of these questions. I would love to hear your favorite book of the year so far and your biggest disappointment of the year so far, and anything else that you feel like what you're looking forward to, like new books coming out or anything else. I hear about things from you guys like all the time that I'm just like, wow, that sounds so interesting. Recently, Tony recommended one and I'm excited to get to that. It's like a book about Ukraine and like the war in Ukraine. I have it here somewhere. Invasion, the inside story of Russia's bloody war and Ukraine's fight for survival by Luke Harding. I'm excited to listen to that. Thank you, Tony. So yeah, keep recommending things to me. Sometimes I need reminders because I don't actually have a place where I put things that I want to read anymore. I used to use Goodreads, but even when I use Goodreads now for that, I never look at my Goodreads when I'm picking out my next book. So yeah, just please keep reminding me if there's something you really think that I would like, and I'll definitely be excited to read that. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.